Alright, what's going on, guys? I was going to do a rocker video, but my battery's a little low. So, we'll save this for probably tomorrow, maybe later tonight. If I feel good, I'll go charge the battery up, see how long it takes. But, gonna get these rockers built. We're gonna use some core rockers I got here. I soaked these the other day. Got some stock Volkswagen rocker arms. And we're gonna replace these shafts with these solid shaft rockers and the solid aluminum spacers. Now the idea behind this is it's not that the Volkswagen shaft is weak, it's the spring washers, the wavy washers as they call them. They have these little springs that hold the rockers on. Let me see if I can pull one off real quick here. Anyway, these little clips right here on the end, they just pull off and then the rocker arm disassembles. And when you put a camshaft in these and add spring pressure, these little wavy washers tend to break and get up in the oil pump. They're super hard and they travel really good with the oil. So we're eliminating that. We're putting them on a solid shaft, and then we can get our alignment all nailed down too, and get the rockers parallel with the valve stem. And we set our geometry by putting shims underneath the rocker, between the rocker stand pad and the rocker, and we checked that at 50 thousandths lift. So I'll show you guys how to do that. This is a C35. They usually don't require any shim under the rocker, and it's a brand new case, so we don't have anything that's been cut or machined, so we should be good. These heads are really nice. They still have the original factory ledge in them, and we got 70 thousandths deck height, so we should be good on the push rod length. We got the stock chrome moly push rods, so we'll do this video maybe later tonight. Easy Jeezy's making some transmission videos, so I don't know if you guys have been checking those out. A couple of the guys that watch my channel have been checking them out, and they had some questions about the transmission in my car, and I've done a video on it. I don't know if it got lost or not, but a couple things that we've learned building transmissions down at Scooters. The trannies you see me build here, I typically service transmissions. You know, I'll put synchronizers in them, maybe a bearing here and there, basically repair work. All the performance transmission work and all the trannies that I build here go down the Scooters and go through a jig, much like the jig that Easy Jeezy's got there. The trannies that we build for our cars are a lot different than what Easy Jeezy's showing you. And when I try to go down to Scooters here in a couple days, he's had some time off or whatever, we'll go down there and see if I can put some transmission parts together for you and show you the kind of stuff that we use. It's probably the next level up from where the street transmission performance type stuff is. This is one thing that we've learned. This is one of the Rhino cases over here. These cases have extra gussets on them, and they don't have the extra gussets on the bottom of the case where you need them. This case was designed for a tank. If you remember the 040 heads, those heads were built for the little tanks over in Brazil, and these transmission cases were built for that same project. The cases are heavily rigid on the top. You know, they're set up for a mid-engine. So if you had a mid-engine car, you know it's trying to push the ring gear out of the top of the case. And this is ideal for a sand car that's a mid-engine arrangement. However, in drag racing, the ring gear tries to come out of the bottom of the case. A lot of people weld this drain plug hole up thinking that it's the problem, but it's not the problem. The problem is the side plates are trying to blow off the transmission every time you leave the starting line. And you know, in a case like my car, it's got about 400 horsepower, and it tends to be easier on the transmission than a car with like 100 and 200 horsepower. You know, 150, 200 horsepower, the car will kill a tranny because it grabs the tire and pulls the motor down and puts all the load on the tranny. My car spins the tires all the way through first gear, so it has a lot less stress on the transmission. We don't use the Super Beetle main shafts. We use the FTC or an Airco shaft or a Whittle. It's an aftermarket first and second gear shaft. They're about $600. This is another trick that we do here to the case. It's called a through bolt. This is a Paul Guard trick. He's over in Hawaii. He builds trannies, and he's probably one of the better tranny builders. You got Paul Guard, Harold Carter, Ian at Rancho, and there's a couple other guys that are pretty proficient at it in the high performance world, but they're not cheap. But this is one of the tricks that Paul Guard came up with, and it makes a big difference. We take an engine stud and we put this on the drill press and drill the hole through the bottom of the tranny and add an extra stud here. I'll show you what it looks like under the car. Incorporate it into the side plates with the extra gusset there. Now this extra stud is right in the where it breaks area, and it actually adds the extra clamping load it needs to keep the case from coming apart. However, we learned the hard way. These Rhino cases are aluminum. They don't have any magnesium in them, and the magnesium has a couple good qualities to it. It was used to lower the cost, the manufacturing cost of the product, making the engine cases. Volkswagen engine case and a Volkswagen transmission will have magnesium content. Even the Porsches use them in their cases. The one thing that magnesium has that's very important, and one of the reasons they use it in the aluminum, is that it has memory. And by memory, I mean when it takes a shock load, it comes back. It's much like a plastic bumper cover. It knows where it's supposed to be. Now, when you take the magnesium out and go to an all aluminum construction, it has no memory. And we're finding this out with these tranny cases. This is a brand new case that broke the ring gear, first or second pass, I don't know. It didn't have a lot of runtime on it, and if you visually look at the case, there's nothing wrong with it. However, the problem with this case is this hole's blown out of where it needs to be. That hole right there actually moves where the pinion comes through the case. This is a 4-bolt case. This is another problem with this case. The 4-bolt case, you can get a chrome moly retaining plate. That deflects very soon after you put it in. It's not much stronger than the factory piece. The collar bolt, the single pinion bearing bolt, is much stronger. They make a chrome moly ring nut, and it's a lot stronger than the 4-bolt setup. That's why we like the 72 cases. The 72 case is the most sought after for the drag racing community because it has the single nut pinion bearing. It has 2 side plates on it, and it's a good content of magnesium and aluminum. The case is a good quality case. So if you have a 72 case, they're very popular for drag racing. 73, they went to a single side plate, and they had 1 side plate on the transmission instead of 2. Those work okay. They have a very weak reverse. The Z boxes are a little stronger. It'll have like a Z on the bottom of it, and that makes a good freeway flyer or a street box if you have an IRS car. The other thing that we do a little different with the rear end, we don't use super diffs. We use an aluminum spool in my car, and then on our street cars we use a quaif. It's a clutch type rear end differential. If you use the super diff, they have little shims in them, like flywheel shims, very much like a flywheel shim, and the more shims you pack in there, the more of a posi you have. But those burn up pretty quick if you have a heavy load on them, a slick, so the quaifs are a lot nicer, and they let the car go around corners better. It's just an all around better unit. They're about $1,100 though. That's the drawback to them, and they're sort of hard to find now, but I'll see if I can get one dug out for you and show you the difference. We got a little bit of everything down there, and that's where I'll have to make that video. This car here, I serviced the motor on this car, but the scooter has been involved in this car for about 25 years now. He's been a sponsor on this car. It was built at his shop, and he does the transmission on this. I wouldn't attempt to build this transmission. I'm going to eventually have to do it when he stops doing it for me, but until he stops doing it, he'll do it. That's all I can say. He's one of the best transmission builders out there as far as I'm concerned. So let me take you under the car and we'll show you a few of the features on this tranny. Hopefully this isn't too bad of a video for you guys. You can see this is a 72 transmission case, and it has a gusset welded on it. That's this plate that you see. Let me hold the camera and see if I can point this plate out to you. This plate here is welded onto the gearbox, and that keeps the bottom of the transmission from exploding out of the bottom of the car. We don't use aluminum side plates. If it's a street box, we'll use the aluminum ones. There's some really nice billet pieces that we use on some of the low horsepower cars. This car has steel side plates. These are crown units. A lot of times they'll just use it on one side. This has the steel side plates on both sides of the transmission. This is our 3-bolt right here. It's incorporated through the transmission. You can see the extra stud running through the bottom of the transmission case, and then you can see the gusset here. It's welded to the side of the gearbox all the way down the rear end and all the way through the bell housing area. We'll move over to this side. You can see the gusset a little better. This has to be welded underwater, especially on a magnesium case. It's sort of tricky. You can buy this plate and weld it yourself if you know how to weld magnesium, or you can have this done at Airco. I believe he sells these cases, Eric Ballard. I think Easy Jeezy referred to him. He's a good source for transmission parts for the aftermarket first and second gear main shafts, axles, any kind of your hard parts that you might need. That's a good source. This is the tab here for the 3-bolt. Goes over the side plate. This side plate's almost a 1/2 inch thick. They're fairly large. Most of the other cars in my class are running Minneolas. That's an aftermarket gear case, and they use a 9.5 inch World of Outlaws ring and pinion. Very robust training, but they're about, I don't know, $10,000, so they're out of my price range. He's got a Berg mount welded into this car. You can see where it's been welded to the horns there. And it's solid, and the gearbox bolts to this mount. That's one of the other things that's pretty important. You want to keep all this from moving. You can see this car's gusseted quite a bit in the shock area, and you got to get all that pretty tight back there, or, you know, you'll get these horns will want to shake. And if you get any kind of tire shake at all when you're drag racing, it's going to break the ring and pinion, almost guaranteed. Another good method of knowing when you need to work on the transmission is usually a tranny. If it's leaking and it's a Volkswagen transmission, it needs to be serviced. When the side plates start to leak, that means you have an issue inside the transmission. Something's moved. So that's a look at this transmission. That's why we use the Volkswagen gearboxes. Let me get up. Oh boy. I don't know where the aluminum case is I have. It's around here somewhere. But we've recently discovered that the aluminum cases are susceptible to the same problem with the deflection issue. That's the reason a lot of the old-time Volkswagen racers would prefer a magnesium case over the aluminum case. The aluminum case, it's not a price issue. It's a much more beefier case, and it's shown to be showed good service in the past. But we did have an issue with the case that we recently built a motor. It was a raised deck case, and it had to have 300 thousandths machined off the face of the case. And whoever machined the case clamped it down in the fixture wrong, and it distorted the case. Now, if you clamp the Volkswagen case down, chances are it would come back to where it was supposed to be. But the aluminum doesn't have the memory like the magnesium does. So it's one of the reasons they put that magnesium in there. The problem with magnesium, though, it does have the problem with getting fatigued over amount of time. The magnesium can lose the molecular structure, and it can become fatigued, and that's where the cracks come from. So if you guys are old racers from the 60s and you were gassers, you know, they used to make magnesium wheels. I think there's a set of those down at Scooters too that are off an old class car. So this is diamond axles is what we use in this car. They make a much better setup. Dave Foltz makes a setup much like the early Porsches had, or the Corvette setup. It's got the U-joints with the Spicer joints, and it's a pretty beefy setup. This car is really way over the limit for what I have for drivetrain components. You know, we're still running drum brakes on this, you know, so sometimes it doesn't stop if you watch the videos. But anyway, that's a little, hopefully that answered a couple questions, but you know, you keep watching those Easy Jeezy videos, because he's got some good information there, and it'll give you the basics. And The main thing is the parts, you know, depending on the horsepower level is depending on what you're going to have to buy for your transmission. You know, the average $1,250 training from Rancho is, you know, aftermarket diff, much like Easy Jeezy showed you, with a welded third and fourth gear, maybe a close ratio with some steel shift forks. And usually they don't come with axles. They're just one side plate on it. And, you know, that's what they call their Super Street or whatever training. You know, it's like $1,250. There's some really trick stuff though that you don't get with that training that you sort of have to have. This transmission also has the pinion bearing. The end of the pinion bearing is machined down, where it goes into the gear case, and instead of having a regular stock Volkswagen bearing in it, it's got a Timken bearing, and it's a tapered bearing. So the ring gear, when the pinion tries to push out of the front of the transmission, that's what it's trying to do when you let the clutch out. It's trying to drive it out of the front of the tranny, out of the ring gear. That Timken bearing has a lot more protection as far as the load. With the Volkswagen bearing, there's very little protection. A lot of times that bearing will get loose in the gearbox and they make a little plate to hold it in. The Timken bearing is a lot better. It's loaded, so it's preloaded. When you bolt the gearbox housing down, you actually preload the pinion into the ring gear, and it keeps it from deflecting. So a lot of what we do is sort of crazy. We run 0 backlash on the ring gear. If you did that on a street car, it probably wouldn't work out too good for you. But there's a big difference between an all-out drag tranny for a car like this and a street tranny, completely different. So if you got a street car, I think the Easy Jeezy series would be a great series for you. And then I'll just try to go down and show you some of the other stuff. If you want a pro shift, if you want to go to the Liberty rings, if you want to do that kind of stuff, I can show you what that stuff looks like. And again, you can get all that stuff from Erico. You know, he's a pretty good source. So, and I believe Eric even sells complete trannies if you want to buy one from him. So anyway, so it's pretty cool having Jake and Al here today. That was pretty cool for him stopping by. I appreciate that. He's one of my favorite truckers. I like to watch a lot of the truckers on YouTube. There's a big trucker community out there, and I saw one of Jay's first videos, and I knew he'd be a big hit because he's a real personable guy. He's really cool, and he's just like that in real too. So he's a real down-to-earth guy, and he keeps the videos fresh. He keeps you know, does different stuff. He's got the Project Blackbird guitar thing going, so that's pretty cool. I know a lot of the garage gang guys are into the music thing. So what he does is he gets old instruments, rebuilds them, and repurposes them to kids that can't afford instruments. And I think he's given a couple away since he started that project. But if you guys haven't checked that project out or checked his channel out, go over there and check it out. It's a lot more than trucking videos. He does a lot of stuff. So pretty cool. Cool to meet you guys that are out there on the YouTubes. It's cool when you come here for sure. So we went and had a little lunch. And it was a little cold here today. Cool, not cold, because I know you guys are freezing in other places. We did a little cold start on the car. I did a little wipe down on it. I cleaned it up a little bit because it was looking really bad. It was all dusty. So that's what it looks like when it's not completely covered. It needs to be cleaned up. And we've really been thinking about repainting it and putting a street car paint job on it, something less flashy. And I got some stuff coming up under the artwork. There's a Joker in there you can't really see. He's burning up in some flames down there. So it's one of those cars you got to see in person to see all the stuff. It took 3 days to paint this. So my wife's always telling me I'm crazy when I mention repainting it again. But, you know, I think for the street it needs to be all one color, you know, look more like a street car. I'm sort of looking for a couple doors, you know. Anybody out there's got a couple doors for a 67 and 66 early model? I'd like to get a couple doors to put on there and have the windows roll up and down. That'd be really cool. But yeah, so we worked on the intake manifold a little today. I took it apart and pulled the throttle body off. I got one more piece of trash out of there. So I don't know, I might try to go with that because the new one's 400 bucks. I'm gonna pressure wash it. I saw where John Kerry suggested taking it down to the radiator shop and having it hot tank. I thought about that, but I'm just not sure how the plastic would react. It's a plastic intake, and I think it's actually, geez, I don't know. I think it's glued together, guys. You know, I don't think it's actually, you know, anything that's really strong. You can see where it's got a seam here, but there's no place to separate it. But I was able to get down in there pretty good when I took the throttle body off. You can get your hand in there, it makes a turn. And these runners sort of, you know, make a U shape down to the floor of this plenum. It's a little oily in there, so I was gonna put some gasoline in there, try to get some of the oil loose, because I think that's what the little particles are sticking to. There's no little places for it to hide, it's just hanging up. So I got one little piece out today, which is much better than what I've been getting out. So anyway, let me shut this off because my battery light's flashing. I'll charge this up. I might come out here tonight because I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to get these knocked out. I got to go to a drift thing with Hans Saturday. So I won't get to work on this tomorrow unless it rains. And yeah, so I got to put a fuel pump on Mama's truck. I tried to take this apart. I thought I could just get the pump here, you know, just the pump is all I need. But apparently, no, you can't do that. You're not supposed to take that off because they don't like that. So I got to buy the whole assembly. And I found it local for $260. And that was from one of the local big box stores. But there's a place called Rock Auto. I don't know if any of you guys have ever dealt with them or, you know, what the feedback would be. They had one for as low as $60 is where they started, $67, and they went up to like $190 for the Delco. They had a Carter brand for I think $142, and I was thinking Carter's a pretty good brand. I might try to get that, and that's the whole assembly, not just the pump. So I'm probably gonna have to order that unless somebody tells me that they're not good to deal with. And yeah, so I don't know, that'll probably be Monday or Tuesday before I can put that back together. And if I get this intake manifold cleaned, I'll get that Dodge running. We can get rid of that. Just got a few more bolts to throw on that and some accessories. So not a totally unproductive day. We didn't get a whole lot done though. But I'll definitely turn the camera on for these rocker arms because a couple of guys, I guess I had some, well, I had about 100 videos I lost, and apparently one of them was the rocker arm video, and I guess there was some you know, assembly videos that got lost also. I know there's a couple of motor builds on there. I'll try to put some more up because guys seem to like that motor build stuff. And the 2110, I'll get that going again too here soon as I get some of this stuff out. I mean, things are thinning out for sure, and I'm not taking anything else in, so I'm going to try to do some of the stuff we got around here for projects like the Nova. We'll get back on the Nova and stuff like that. Stuff that people want to see. So I had a lot of requests to get back on the Nova. And I was wanting to get my car done about the same time Rick got his done, but I don't know. I think Rick's already passed me, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's wishful thinking. But I got a few items to buy to make this thing roll, and once I get it to roll, then I can get it out of the Bermuda Triangle back there, as Matt calls it, and start working on it. It's got a few dings and stuff that it's got in it from people walking by it. It was all in primer, pretty much ready to go. And of course, the more people that watch, the better it has to be. You know how that is. You know, that's part of the joy of being in the YouTube garage, you know. We want it to look the best we can make it, and we want to do the best job. We want it to be good because we know if we do a shitty job, people will see it and let us know about it. So you know, that's one of the things the YouTube garage has definitely done for me, is cleaned up the finished product a little bit. And you know, there's stuff to learn in everything you do. You know, you bring the skill to the table, and you learn the trade as you go. So yeah, I've learned a lot of little tricks and stuff, and I've seen a lot of quality work that guys do in their garage. It amazes me how nice that you guys make stuff. We were talking about one YouTuber, me and Jake and Al in particular, today, and I told Jay that the guy does phenomenal work, and that's Mr. Sheets doing his Pontiac, as they call him in Canada. But that thing you can eat off that car. I don't know if my car will ever be that nice, but I'd like to make it a little nicer than it was last time. That's my goal. But I'd like to get it running again. That's the big goal, you know, trying to make stuff move here without taking something apart, without robbing Peter to pay Paul. But anyway, that's what's going on. I'm gonna go ahead and shut this off because it's getting long. It's real long. This is one of those 30-minute vlogs. But I'll go ahead and shut this off. Hopefully that answered the questions on the transmission. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the cold start today. And yeah, we'll try to get this thing out to the track or something. I got to do a few little maintenance items on it, but it's close.